Hey, Jody
Ah,
Raynsford, how you doing?
hello, David. Hello, David. Hellard. I take it we're relaxed after our honeymoon. Not our
Um,
honeymoon. After you're relaxed after your honeymoon. I don't want any rumours to continue along that route.
yeah, not so much relaxed as tired. Actually, I don't think you can have a holiday in another continent where you come back relaxed. No matter how in fact, we ended up with we had 10 modes of transport to get back from like when we set off. So we set off about 38 hours before we got home. So as relaxing as that is, and even within that, we booked a different flight during that journey, to try and reduce our stress. So and ensure that we could get our planes home. So yeah, yeah, I wouldn't say it's been amazing, but we haven't come back like and I don't think you can come back from a holiday these days, even if you've been checking email without being utterly stressed, not stressed, but utterly overwhelmed
Yeah, I
by
agree.
life. And we were first day back. What do you do? You got to try and pack up the house. So
Oh yeah, that's really bound to ease you back into it, isn't it? Like one of like the most enjoyable aspects of your life. And I would say honeymoon is kind of it is one of those holidays or those things away where actually you can be truly relaxed because you haven't got kids at that point, so there's nothing
yeah,
brewing in the holiday. There's no
yeah.
ungratefulness and stuff like that. You've just come off the back of a wedding, so there's still that kind of euphoria.
We
There's still
still
that
love each other,
honeymoon period.
a
That
bit, just a
honeymoon
bit.
period. uh, and especially you did it the same way that we did, like doing something completely different. So it kind of it's like traveling again. So it's like you're recapturing a bit of like your kind of your youth type thing, and it's great. Like
Where did you guys
I
go?
think so. Libby was made redundant about 3 or 4 months before our wedding, and we were supposed to be going to go doing a luxury like beach holiday type thing, Maldives, yeah, that kind of classic thing,
Yeah.
house on stilts over the thing, and that went completely out the window. So we looked at like what the kind of the budget options were, and we went. We found that it was the cost of overlanding through Africa was relatively cheap, and you didn't have to actually pay for anything. You only had to pay a small amount up front, I think, for like flights and things like that. But you didn't
Was
have to
that because
pay.
it was
You
incredibly
could
dangerous? Was it like
because you
through
could pay.
war-torn Somalia? And
I know we had to fight our way through part of it, but then we were paid as mercenaries. It was like what's it called, like Race the World, where they go off. They go off for 2 days to work on a farm or something like
sell
that. For
some
us,
blood
we went off for two
diamonds?
days to storm a citadel or something, and we got paid to go. So yeah, but you didn't have to because everything was paid in cash, so you didn't have to pay anything until you got there. And so 30 days overlanding through from
Wow.
Johannesburg up to Nairobi was incredibly. I mean, it was camping. That was the little bit that I forgot to tell Libby that it was camping, and and spending your honeymoon with 20 other people is a bit weird, but it was amazing. It was really amazing. But and it was because obviously we didn't have the money that we wanted to have when we did it, but actually turned out to be incredible. And the fact that we'd have an inbuilt group of people with us who we got on with. It was like having a little party going
Oh,
with you
you
as
all
well. So
travelled together, the whole group?
yeah, yeah. Have you ever done
Oh,
overlanding
what?
in Africa? Like you go on those
No.
those big trucks. Yeah, it's really weird. I mean, it's like you just don't know it exists until you do it because they don't have any infrastructure for a lot of stuff. So you get a bunch of Americans, Australians, and British people, and they go down these massive kitted out like lorries. And then what they do is they kind of just drive to various points, to various like campsites and things like that. And they have like an itinerary, and there's different routes that you go and stuff like that. And so, but it was really, really good. And it was
Yeah.
like incredibly cheap as well but we'd have to do weird stuff like we'd be in Johannesburg and we'd have to get to a hostel between 8 and 9, carrying $2,000 in banknotes, which in Johannesburg is an incredibly dangerous thing to do. And we went into like this hostel that had more bars on it than a prison. It was insane. And like we had to
Don't
go
say
there.
the hostel name because there's going to be someone waiting next time. $2,000 tourists.
There was always like these drop offs that they made you do as part of it, because you did different routes and stuff like that, and so you had to, at each point you had to hand over a certain amount of cash for the. I'm not entirely sure how it works, but the way that the travel companies work is they pay people on the ground, and they collect the cash and they take part of the cash.
You weren't money laundering for some kind of.
Yeah, we had to fly in on a certain date. We had to travel over there. We had to get to Tanzania by the 4th. Otherwise, all hell would break loose.
Just take a few packages. I don't know what was in them, but they were very small.
I'm not sure overlanding as a concept exists anywhere else. I don't know anywhere else that do it. When I've gone to about Southeast Asia and stuff like that, the travel infrastructure has been okay enough. Again, still, 27 minibuses and trains and things to get where you want. But in Africa, that doesn't seem to exist. You need the overlanding. But I've never experienced it anywhere else. So, but you obviously, what was the travel infrastructure like in the places where exactly did you go? So you went to the Galapagos, didn't you?
That was part of it, but actually the bulk of it was in Colombia because
what's Colombia like?
Oh my word, Colombia is amazing. Do you know when you know about a place partly
based on Romancing the Stone? My entire understanding of Colombia is based on the film Romancing the Stone. Yeah.
No way. How was that filmed? Because that was surely still at a time of political upheaval.
I'm not sure it was filmed in Colombia.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, because I've known. I guess I'm fairly well read when it comes to geopolitics, so I've always known about FARC. I know a reasonable amount of the history of Colombia, and then obviously there's been the whole retelling of the drug story and the and the Escobar and the Colombia football team and the documentary about that we talked about on the podcast.
Yeah.
And so, but then I've also, I've met some truly lovely people from Colombia who've either been in the Golden Trail series or other races. And man, it's such a good place. I can't think of, and this maybe shows my lack of travel in South America in general, because I've never been before. But it feels like a place that has come out of the shadow of like 60 years of civil war, in essence, where the colour of, I don't think I've ever seen somewhere with so much graffiti in the towns. And the graffiti is all incredible. Like you go to, when we went to Seville, there's little bits of tagging and graffiti all over the streets, and it just makes it look quite earthy. It doesn't make it look beautiful. Whereas every part of Colombia, you've got constant, beautiful street art. It's not graffiti, it's just street art. And actually, it just makes everywhere feel alive. But yeah, it was everything about it from start to finish. I just absolutely loved, and the whole history of it and everything. And you, do you want me to give you a quick run through of kind of things we did, things like that? Not much running.
Did it? Go on, no, go on. Not much running. Good. You're on your honeymoon. You don't want to do shit like running. How's your injuries?
I don't really know because I've not been doing any running. So actually, I've just been resting the whole time.
There we go. Go on, yeah. So let's do a Wicker's World.
Although I am seeing,
only a few.
I'm seeing my podiatrist. If we have to cut the short, it's because I'm seeing the podiatrist. I'm hopefully getting insoles, and I'm hopefully then able to run again. So fingers crossed. But we flew into Bogota, which first night, go out, try and find a restaurant because we'll get there late. And the only place open is a German pizza stall, sort of shop. Weirdly. We have deep pan pizza.
Amazing.
Does deep pan pizza still exist? We're trying to figure this out because we've not had a deep pan
They don't
since.
call it deep pan. It's just wasn't it just a marketing ploy by like Pizza Hut to just get you to have a really thick crust on something.
Well, does
It was
that?
just because it's basically it's frozen pizza, isn't it? Like deep pan pizza was never a fresh pizza, was it? It was just
Oh, is
it
that
was a
right?
way of getting away with selling frozen. That's what I thought it was. The whole thing of like, oh, it's deep pan because it's a thick, previously frozen crust.
Well, does Pizza Hut still exist? We were trying to because we couldn't even think if we'd
Yeah,
seen
it
one.
is. Yeah, it
It
does.
does, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Because we yeah. So anyway, but Bogota is at altitude, or practically it's at like 2,300 meters, and so the
Yeah.
first morning we get up, we decide we're going to do this hike to the top of the highest peak that over there's a church that overlooks. Oh my God, have you ever done altitude properly?
The only time I've really experienced altitude is when I did the Transalpine, and that was It tastes pretty basic stuff. Becomes a lot harder, doesn't it?
Well, I've never really, yeah, because I've been in the Alps a few times, and even with the Golden Trail, you're sometimes at reasonable height, but this is the first time where it's really kicked in. Because even when I raced in Afghanistan, that was over 3,000 meters, we were there for a few days, and for some reason I just didn't feel the impact. But I didn't realise how much it makes your fingers fat.
Oh
Is that
that's weird, isn't it? Yeah. I did it with me when I was like, oh whoa, what's going on here? Yeah,
because we started hiking up, and we stopped a couple of times because we were genuinely out of breath, and then it took us a while to realise that our toes and our fingers had absolutely swelled up, and it's a really weird feeling where you feel like you're going to burst, and you look like you're going to burst. But we thought we'd do so. We did some sightseeing. As a city, it's massive, and the tourist, like the old city, is quite small but beautiful. Firstly, there's a do better artist from South America. Have you heard of Patero?
no,
He is possibly my favourite artist now, up there with like Francis Bacon and Banksy. He paints everything fat in a jolly way. So he'll do a fat horse, he'll do a fat bird. Every person is overweight, rotund, and so there's statues all around Colombia. And his museum was just incredible because everything smiles. Everything makes you smile, and it's also beautiful. He does fat bananas, fat apples, and he started off by doing a fat Mona Lisa. That's where he made his name. So just do that as at home. Google fat Mona Lisa. It'll make you smile because it is exactly how it sounds. But have a quick Google, Jody, see what you think. But this guy is brilliant as an artist, and I can't think of many artists ever that actually just make you smile. What a legend. But yeah, we decided to join the Bogota hash. So we slept out to the kind of the posh area, and as soon as we got there, you're aware that hash is a bit of everything, and it was that, which was great. There was some locals, there was quite a few internationals, quite a small hash, and it appeared that no one had really regularly hashed on that hash before, bizarrely. But then one of the hashers starts shoving like a wad of cocoa leaves into his mouth because he's worried about the altitude, and pours baking soda in. This American guy, which I found quite quite Colombian, I guess is what I'd say. Apparently, it helps with altitude
as well. Did you follow? Did you go? Oh, come on, Sam, sort me out with some of that gear.
Yeah, get my veins out.
Style.
I was thinking that, but then because he had such a large amount of leads, because he said that's how many you need. It looked more like a baseball player, like having a wad of chewing tobacco, and that to me looks deeply uncomfortable when you see how much they put in there. So it didn't really.
Running with that. Oh yeah, it was great. Oh yeah, it helped with the altitude. Unfortunately, I choked to death
Yeah,
halfway through the run.
yeah. That's the thing. I mean, it might help you potentially with the altitude, but that's what I didn't quite understand because people are saying it helps you with the altitude, but then they've all been living at altitude for a substantial amount of time. So in my head, they'd be used to it by now. But yeah, we went on this hash, and they were all lovely. But I've never been on a slower hash in my life, and it wasn't like anyone was in their 60s or 70s. For some reason, none of them ever ran, even on the hash. And so we were trying to cope with this altitude, and it's quite strange altitude where you can find a pace where actually you can run at that pace and just keep it going at quite a gentle pace. But if you ever go slightly above it, it's almost like you suddenly go into lactic deficit, but of oxygen.
Oh, really? Okay.
And yeah, and you if you just rise the pace over that line a little bit, you can't breathe, and it takes so long to recover from. Which is, I guess I've instinctively heard of that, I've known of that, but I've never really experienced it properly. So that was Bogota. We then take an overnight bus. So we're in Colombia for 10 days. We're doing basically 2 days at most in each place. Take an overnight bus to this place called San Gil, which is the adventure capital. On the way, go to the toilet, 5 a.m. The roads over there are insane because everything's so hilly. They hit a bump.
Yeah.
I go flying. I literally fall out of the toilet with my pants down onto the floor in the aisle of the night bus, where everything's dark except the light shining from the back. And I was thankful I was only doing a pee, but for some reason I chose to do a pee like a 5-year-old, where you pull your trousers down because you're like, I don't want to have to deal with my balance.
Yes.
And
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
So I thought I'd be clever. I'll put it down.
That's
so I've got more.
When it depends whether you've got a zip as a fly. If you've got a zip fly and you're on a bumpy road, you need to be really careful. You know.
So I thought, I'll be clever. I pull this down. So then I just go flying out, like burst. Literally, I'd locked it, but it just burst out the door. And Bridgie said she just heard this noise, wasn't quite sure what happened. Thankfully, I had a gut instinct of like stopping the flow as such. But that was part of my journey. So we then go to Meda.
Did you collect cash after that? Did you go around with a collection afterwards?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've performed for you this evening.
No one looked me in the eye, that's for sure. But yeah, we then went to Sand Hill. The thing is about Colombia, they build on everything. Like there's very few places that are flat, and I've never been to a country which is so steep. And some of the roads are insane. So when you hear about the number of cyclists now coming out of Colombia, it doesn't surprise you because the cars they've got on them, just to walk anywhere, you'll come out and it's a bigger hill than the steepest hill in London that people go to train is Swains Lane. Or they might go down to the Surrey Hills, but I mean, they're not really steep. Whereas every single road you're walking down is steeper than that. And so I think once they get their act together, we're going to see dominance of sports by Colombians because they're all at altitude and they're all on hills the whole time.
I imagine their drugs authority is going to be incredibly lax as well. So it's almost
proactive.
It's a perfect combination for cyclists.
But we then went to Medellin, which is, for me, that was my favourite place. Just incredible.
I've got friends in America, and loads of them talk about Medellin, and I just don't know anything about that. What's so good about it?
In fact, we missed out. We went to Cartagena, which is a cool place, beautiful, so much history,
Cartagena,
amazing. And actually, if I was an American and I wanted a wild stag do, I'd go to Cartagena because it's a beach resort.
Really?
It's got a Caribbean vibe to it because it's on the coast, and it's one of those places where you're not sleeping. Even if you've got a hotel or a hostel, there's a party on, whether you're in it or not, all night long. And you come out of bars, it feels like I'm not going to say like a Magaluf, but just an area where the street is alive. There's people selling stuff everywhere. There's bars just throughout. If you sit down in a restaurant outside, you have street performers coming. You then go around. It's just super fun place, and loads of history as well. But yeah, Medellin is, I think, one of the coolest cities I've been to in the world. Not only is it massively hilly, again, and you there's something about, well, I mean, we said this when I went to Edinburgh. There's something about being in a city with huge hills because it just gives such contrast in the way it looks. Whereas this is in a valley with hills everywhere, so you can see more city than you can see in any other city I've been to. You're just looking around, but also because of the influx from Venezuela at different times. And actually, the influx from Colombians when there was the FARC and paramilitary war, people have just built these kind of shanty town favelas on the side of hills that they've slowly then turned into actual buildings because a lot of them have worked. And so you've just got this crazy looking city. That was the area. And this is the thing people forget about, or they don't realise about Colombia when they go there. Everyone kind of assumes that the strife there was kind of through the drug money because of the TV show Narcos. But actually, it was all because of the political fighting between the guerrillas and the paramilitaries. And so, in Medellin, you have this area that is super European, modern. You just walk through these areas with no cars that have every kind of international restaurant and bar. Everyone's hanging out. It's just an amazing, amazing place to go for any city in the world if you want just fun, lovely food. But then you've also, and that was all because of the money from the cartels. That was the area they were in. And so they built all these amazing buildings. You've got very modern kind of coffee shops and the like, but then you've also got the districts where one of the districts, District 13, was controlled by FARC, and you couldn't really get up there because it was that easily because it's so steep and there isn't a great infrastructure for travel. But also FARC used to shoot at night. They'd just shoot at the police station with guns from the hill. So no police would go up, and they ran the tax system. Then the paramilitaries came in. So there's just this whole history, and like really sad history.
Kind of like Northern Ireland, where it was, quite similar to the way that, that kind of ongoing sort of attrition between the police forces and paramilitary.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess the big difference between Northern Ireland is that and I might be completely wrong in this, but it feels as if it wasn't as if the locals, because in Northern Ireland you're clearly Catholic or Protestant.
Yeah.
You identify as that, and you've got your different areas like the Shankly Road, and it's very segregated. Whereas this is more that just the FARC guerrillas or the paramilitaries would take over different areas. And the people in those areas weren't necessarily sympathisers to either cause.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
They're just people trying to get on with their lives. And you're kind of in a civil war through these two power groups. That they're not... I mean, you might have a political bias towards the guerrillas over the paramilitaries, but then the chances are, it didn't sound like there was a whole area that was pro one or pro the other. There were rich people who were pro the paramilitaries because they were funded by them and by the government stuff. But yeah, so this area, they then had all this graffiti that was amazing graffiti and rap, and they realised they could use this as a way to get money into that area. So they've built these escalators up there. They've turned it into a graffiti and an aerial
escalators.
Tour. Yeah, because that's the thing. It's so steep.
I do. It's so funny. Like this was something I found like when I went like interrailing around Europe and stuff like that. When there's the willingness, like we would never build an escalator onto a like a major monument or something like that. But you go to like places in Italy, you go to things, and they'll shove an escalator in there in order to get more people up there, and it's hilarious. It's just hilarious having an escalator to get up to. I mean, it makes perfect sense, but it's just weird.
Yeah, it's unexpected that because they always talk about how the escalator kind of opened up the area, and you're like, that just seems crazy because escalators don't seem ever that long. But yeah, it's because it's so steep, and also there's an element of you want to give a safe. Well, it's almost the escalator route creates the equivalent of a river to a country where you get shops on either side.
There's got to be. You know, like there's the McDonald's rule that any country that had a McDonald's, would never be in a war against another country that had a McDonald's. I think there's got to be an escalator rule that when they install an escalator, it means that there's a certain level of safety or a certain level of commerciality around it, which means that it's safe enough to travel in.
Yeah, and I get the sense you still wouldn't necessarily want to be in that area by yourself at night, as with a lot of places on Earth. But the graffiti there, and so we go up there, and there's this rapper who then gets people to all come together. He's rapping in Spanish. He then starts taking the piss out of us, and we're just loving it, having no idea what he's doing, what he's saying. And he's freestyling stuff about where everyone's coming from. But the graffiti as well, it's all proper art where everything means something. And in my head, I always think of graffiti artists as almost being teenagers who their messages of fuck the police or Dave's the best or screw the cross towners, Whereas it's quite weird to see like poetic art. I mean, there's a lot of that, Well, there will be since I've been.
I love this graffiti artist. It's like, so what is your motivation? Well, we all know Dave's the best, and that's the message we need to communicate.
But and so it was just, but it really was weird. This is kind of a political point here, but it's strange going to a place and being reminded of actually how much impact like a government or infrastructural project can have place. And they'd extended the top of the escalators. They then built these roads that were then connecting different areas, and that was having a dramatic impact on the local area because suddenly those people could get to work, the tourists could go by them, and so all the houses on that road suddenly were opening up as little shops, and yeah, it's weird where there's so much skepticism towards government intervention or towards what big government could do. And in Medellin, they've got free sports in the centre where anyone can go and they can do swimming, they can do cycling, all these clubs, they'll do that. And 3 nights a week, they'll then close the streets around that area for people to be able to run, cycle, do any sports they want. And it's just really amazing to hear like the power and the impact that was having on. And it's partly because a lot of the city was built without urban planning, so there weren't parks, it's just people who've come there as a refugee building a house, turning it into a proper property. And so you've got no public space. And so they've realised actually that having something like that has this massive impact on people's health. And they're doing it for, I think, driven by financial motivation of getting people active. But what else we got? So I love it when you go abroad and people think of a product that as something special. So everywhere we went, people kept on offering us like a really expensive blonde beer. And it seems that Stella has done a job on Colombia.
Stella's done a job on the whole of America. Like I told you,
I was
going to tell you this time. Yeah, I went to Boston. And we went into this, like, Boston's got loads of really great craft beer places. America's got its own incredible this craft beer revolution and everything. We go into this bar in Boston and we say, okay, and this guy's talking to us and incredibly chatty. We go, can we get whatever the guy whoever owns this place, what does he drink? Bring us what he drinks. They're like, oh, I've got something special for you. And they bought us Stella. Like, they have done this job, like this idea that this is some like classy European beer, and we're like, are you fucking kidding me? They've done an incredible job in all of the Americas, it seems, in tricking people into thinking that it's Stella Artois, some a gourmet beer that Europeans drink.
Well, in a way, they did that to us, but then it became too popular and got the wife beater moniker because of the nature of the people drinking it. But it was kind of the reassuringly expensive, wasn't it? Where you don't really see Stella that much anymore compared to how you used to. But actually, do-badders, what is it in the UK that we have from other countries, that from your country, for example, that you think of as utterly shit, but we think, oh yeah, this is so sophisticated.
Foster's was like that for a while, wasn't it? Foster's was like one of the most popular beers, and we think, oh, it's like Australia and stuff like that, and Australians would be like, well, yeah, why are you drinking? It's like, why are you drinking absolute piss?
Yeah, and it's Budweiser
like,
as well.
Budweiser trying to market Bud Light in the UK, and I'm just like, who is drinking that? Who in the UK is drinking Bud Light for them to think that there is a market for it? Because we need to kill that straight away.
But I think they changed the percentages for Foster's and Budweiser in the UK, so it actually made them better beers than in the States.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because Budweiser's about 3% in America, where it's 5% here. I think Foster's still quite weak here.
Absolute water stronger. In America. In America, it's water. It's just dreadful.
I think they realised they didn't have a spot in the market over here, so they went for premium. But yeah, what else we do? We went on a coffee tour, and
What was the coffee like? That was the question. Coffee. What was coffee like? Do they have Starbucks, and do people use Starbucks? Because I always wonder whether they have all the kind of the shitty coffee chains and everything.
They did have a Starbucks, we saw in some places, but they've got their own coffee chain, which is this.
Yeah, I imagine.
Colombian guy with a donkey. I can't remember what it's called. And apparently it's one of the most famous brands in North America. They were saying, I don't know if it's now a chain in the States as well. It sounded like it was. But the coffee was exactly like the coffee here. So it's weird. I don't know. We did this coffee tour that was fun. And I was there getting lots of pictures, trying to be the man from Del Monte, thinking I can link this into Caffeine Bullet, as if I've come to find out about caffeine, and I'm expecting the bean.
The man from Del Monte.
I'm there like, oh yes, this is our harvest when we use this. The man from Del Boy.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's weird because. You've got the two different. Well, if you don't know coffee, there's two different beans: Robusta beans, Arabica beans. The West pretty much solely uses Arabica beans, what they're called, because they're the ones that are less bitter. They've actually got less caffeine in, but they taste a bit nicer. And we went through all this tour, and then at the end, the coffee tastes just like the coffee here, because we all get really good coffee.
That's good.
But But Claire agreed. And do you know when you have something, you're not sure whether you're just not nuanced enough or if you're not sophisticated enough.
It's like with wine tasting, isn't it? You're like, you go on, you do an expensive wine tasting. You're like, I don't feel this is any different to anything I've ever had before.
Yeah.
You expect to go, oh, this is a £4,000 a bottle of wine. You're like, yeah, because you haven't developed the palate.
There's no lychee in there, mate. It's just white.
Yeah, it tastes red.
Yeah. So then, so it's just strange that in some ways it's nice to know we've got really good coffee, but at the same point it's a bit disappointing because you're hoping for this. I guess you want a story, don't you? Or you want to be able to have.
You do. You're like, oh, because especially you want to tell people when you come back home, when you see them drinking, you go, oh, that muck. We were in Colombia and we were drinking, we met the grower who ground it for us, and then had ridden with his donkey like 200 miles to give us this cup of coffee. And when we drank it, it was like epiphany.
You want a dinner party story, really, don't you? Where if there's some pretentious twat in there talking about coffee, you can then out coffee them. I mean, we'll still pretend to do that.
Libby once told me a story, and this ruined a holiday. Libby once told me this story about her dad, who, when he was travelling around Europe, and he went to, I can't remember the fucking name of the place now. Rem. It went to Rem, a champagne capital.
Oh, yes.
And so he had this story that he liked to tell and she liked to tell of how he was traveling. And they went to Rem, and it was this little town, but it had loads of, and it was typical little French town, but it had loads of these big champagne houses. And they were drinking champagne out of those metal camping cups and everything. And I had this impression of what Rem was like, and Libby had this impression of what Rem was like. We go to this place, it's a bit like this. It was nothing like that. I mean, even this, it was a completely fake memory because it was never like that. And we go to this place, and it's like fucking Bordeaux or something. It's just a built-up town where you're nowhere near any of the places. You've got a book to go to them. You don't come anywhere near champagne at all, unless you go into a place and you order some champagne. It's not cheaper. It's not different. It's just like anywhere. Libby got into a massive fucking strop about this because she got so much so that it almost ruined the whole holiday. She got so angry and so annoyed that she just she couldn't handle the fact that it wasn't exactly how her dad had painted it.
Had she brought her metal cup ready?
Well, she hadn't brought a metal cup ready, but this was kind of part of a camping thing, and so this was supposed to be kind of like the end of it. There was going to be, here we are, already thinking about the pictures of, sat in this little French, what's it called, with the Rem Cathedral behind us drinking. It was going to look amazing. Hey, it was like nothing like that. So I had to spend a huge amount of money on champagne in order to move her out of that mood. It was a cracking move, but it just goes to show, doesn't it? Like, you want that story and you can't get it, and it's really fucking frustrating.
Yeah, and you want to feel that things aren't properly industrial or actually.
Well, you don't want it to be cloned. You don't want it to be cloned. That's what I was asking about Starbucks. Like, you don't want to feel as though things are being ruined by creeping Western commercialization. That's like the worst thing ever.
Well, yeah, or homogenization, where you go somewhere and you're like, that's the worst thing about the Middle East. You go there and it's just all American and British and European chains. And you're like, right, what's the point of this trip? I've got all this. But we then and they like the local coffee is a real, because it's something like 10 to 1 the cost of good, like, just to give you, like, so you've got the two different beans, Arabica and Robusta. Robusta's a shit one. If you get a really good Arabica bean, and then the one that's not quite as good is worth 10 times more from the same bushes in the same coffee plantation. And Arabica, so Robusta is cheaper than that. So it gives you an idea of how different the price of that coffee is.
So they're kind of treated like grapes. They're treated like grapes would be in a vineyard okay.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, from this plantation, like 95% of them were the top grade. It was only the ones that they picked that were actually not quite as ripe as they should be and didn't float, in essence, or did float. I can't remember which one. And but yeah, so that a lot of, if you went for local Colombian coffee, because for them it was almost an export rather than something that it's America really that have popularized coffee as a mass consumer product with Starbucks. Yeah. And so for them, one of the ladies was telling us that her grandmother didn't really drink coffee because she didn't really get it. And a lot of them will drink Robusta coffee, and it will be incredibly thick, almost like a Turkish coffee at times. And so their experience of coffee is very different to ours. And if you were to just buy locally, not in a kind of chain or upmarket coffee place, you'd probably get Robusta, which you'd be like, holy crap, this is intense, strong coffee. Not kind of what we've been now been trained into, like this sophisticated, wanky coffee we have. But yeah, we did some 5 hour. So I did the whole trip in my barefoot shoes, which
nice.
Yeah, and this is the thing. So I think
how much water did you get? Was it wet? I take it wasn't wet.
It could be at times. That's the trouble. What's the trouble with these? I wore these the first day back in the UK when it absolutely shat it down, and I just had wet feet because there's holes in them. But
You've got blisters now.
But the thing is, having spoken to Tim, so I think our Tim episode is just coming out either this week or it's come out last week, where we talked to the podiatrist finally, and he made it sound.
You've got to specify the Tim. You've got to specify when you talk about Tim.
That's two.
We've had a lot of Tim.
That's not Tim next. Tim, is it Breasden? Branston. So he kind of implied that if you go to this barefoot, and the same with Chris McDougall, that your feet are getting these workouts and you're knackered. But I'm not getting that. So I'm trying to get my feet strong, see what happens. We did this supposed 5-hour hike, which took us about 2 hours 40, where we were going over rocks. It didn't really get more rugged underfoot, slipping around a lot, and my feet just aren't getting tired. So I don't know whether that is. Yeah,
maybe you've already got strong feet. Maybe your feet are pretty strong already.
But I don't know why they would be.
Are you doing any exercises, or are you just walking around?
Just walking around, yeah. Just walking around the whole time. So, too bad. There's another question. Has anyone else had this? Because we've been led to believe you walk around a lot.
Mine ache. Like because I do exercises with them as well. I do like stretching exercises and stuff. And so, and I'm pretty much walking around barefoot all the time. I haven't got the barefoot shoes to go into work with and everything, but yeah, majority of the time it's spent working from home. But mine do ache after at the end of the day, definitely.
Ah, okay, weird.
So yeah, but then I'm doing stretching stuff. I'm doing stretching stuff, which is caught. I'm doing stuff that's specifically making them hurt.
Focusing on them, yeah.
Not making them hurt. That's not the right way to put it.
I'm stamping on my feet.
Yeah, I'm hitting them with a claw hammer, so they definitely hurt at the end of the day.
But yeah, so I was kind of confused by that. But well, in theory, I've got strong feet now. But we did some mountain biking, and I realised actually, if you want to be good at running trail, mountain biking is quite good.
Okay, why?
Because and it was super fun, because you're flying down a hill and you're having to choose a route and pick a route a lot faster because you're having to see it at greater speeds. And I was just absolutely loving the speed of it, and kind of almost counterintuitive. The faster you go, the smoother it is. But it struck me because I was finding it incredibly easy to just blow through it, and I thought actually this is just like trail running. And actually, if you want to get some practice in how to get better at being able to let go running downhill and lose that worry and that fear of not being able to put your next foot onto something stable, it's such a good training for that. I'm sorry, I'm suggesting biking.
What's the health system like there?
I don't know. Yeah, I'm really not sure.
Because that kind of stuff, that's the thing. I always think about that. I always think about, we could do this, relatively extreme thing. But if one of us comes off and hurts ourselves, what's the, they generally tend to be, I don't know, they do, what's it called, in the socialist places, the healthcare system tends to be very, very good.
Yeah, true, actually, yeah.
But then when the socialist system breaks down, it then goes to shit because then private move in and everything else, and there's that transition period. But yeah, Colombia, I don't really know, what their health system is.
Colombia's still pretty socialist in its outlook, from what I can tell, in a really positive way, actually. In that it seems to be doing a lot of.
Just lost all the American listeners.
Yeah, yeah, they're all communists down there. No, they're doing a lot of things to try and actually think of the community and to kind of wealth distribution, and because it's quite rich country resource wise. So I'd imagine the health care system is relatively good for South America, although I'm not based on anything. I've got to go, actually. I've got to to my podiatrist, but I've basically we then did the Galapagos. That's great. We did the Amazon jungle. That's great. I mean, those are just lovely holidays. Nothing massively to report from that. But one thing, have you ever had coconut lemonade?
Oh, no. Coconut lemonade. No, never even heard of it.
One of the best drinks. I think it's called lemonade de coconut. Something like that.
Oh, my goodness. With your
it is one of the best drinks we've ever had.
Is it carbonated coconut water, or is it lemonade that has coconut essence added to it? What is it?
This is what we can't tell. We tried it and it blew our minds, and we started getting it everywhere we went. We could find it, and we then thought, we've got to have this at home. We can't. We need to tell the world about this drink. We looked at the recipe online. It's about 450 calories per serving. It's like got more calories than a Mars bar, and but it's so good. And it's basically coconut milk, cream of coconut.
Oh, okay. Oh God, yeah.
So that is the really intense, and then they add lime to it.
Oh, okay.
And
yeah.
I think some people add lemonade. And oh my God, it's just so good.
Wow. Oh, it's relative. I've got all the stuff for that downstairs.
Mate,
I might try it later.
Go and make it. Have a cocktail. Add some rum. You would be so happy. I've got a flight because I've got to go and pick up my insoles. So apologies that this has been a non-running bad stuff. We've got a lot of catching up to do. We're going to do on Friday, aren't we?
Yeah.
So we're back in the flow of things, but do balance. If you've got any suggestions of guests, I'm booking now again, and I need to start filling our schedule. So do message about potential people, topics, things like that. David at badboyrunning.com. Please do review all that jazz, but I've got to go, so I can't pressure that too much. Jody, anything to fly?
No. If you want to join the conversation, join the Facebook group at just type in Bad Boy Running Podcast on Facebook, and we'll answer 3 questions and we'll let you in.
And the people of Colombia, I love you. Your country is amazing. Take a bow. You should be proud. It's great. So thanks for listening, guys, and we'll see you next time.